Hello and welcome. We are here at GetJenny Helsinki office, and I'm your host today. And I'm working as a digital marketing lead here at GetJenny. My name is Mikko Rindel, and I have here with me.
Hello everyone, my name is Ilkka Vertanen. I'm the head of sales for GetJenny and excited to be here to share our learnings regarding ROI of chatbots.
Thanks, and hi everyone, my name is Miikka Haavisto. I'm one of the co-founders of GetJenny. Also very excited to be here today.
Good to have you both here. So that you don't wonder, we just wanted to have the video connection on for the greetings. So we will close it now and continue with the slide and the audio. So then we could move on to the agenda of today. When we started to plan this content some weeks ago, we noticed that there are many ways to approach this topic. And then we decided that it's good to go through the pretty basic stuff of like going through the costs and returns before diving into the return on investment. So this is how we will run today. And after the 30 minutes, we will still have 5 to 10 minutes for questions. And you can ask the questions already during the webinar, and then in the end, we will go through them and at least answer as many as we can. So let's move on. Ilkka, I'll let you introduce us briefly.
Yeah, really quickly about us and a company and the product. So what we do is that we offer a human-directed AI chatbot platform for our customers, and our product or the service is a tool for non-technical people, which usually means in our context, customer service reps, to build, maintain, and deploy chatbots. And well, normal use cases or goals for our product is to improve customer experience, increase customer lifetime value, and reduce customer service overhead. Currently, we work with about 60 different customers from various industries, ranging from insurance to banking, utilities, housing, IT, and retail. And our customers are currently in 5 different countries. Company-wise, we are a group of 17 employees and split between our offices in Helsinki and Turin.
Thank you, Ilkka. And Miikka, could you say a few words about our partners?
Sure. So if we start from below the line, there are 2 main ways how to deploy our chatbot solution. So there's the option of a standalone widget, which means that then the chatbot is just acting on its own, serving customers. And another option is to use one of our channel partners. You can see there's quite a few of them. In these cases, then what the chatbot does is handles conversations, and then when needed or if needed, will transfer the conversation to a human agent. By the way, if you don't see your live chat platform on the list, we are constantly looking at new partners in this area, so feel free to contact us about that. And on the top of the line, we are very glad to work with some very good co-sell partners like Microsoft, Sofigate, and Tieto. And what they do with us is they help us with the sales and as well as the implementation process with certain customer cases.
Thank you for that. Yes. Then we want to stop here for a while and set more context for today's discussion. So Miikka, could you continue from here?
Yes. So basically, you can consider almost all, if not all, chatbot projects to fall in the category of customer service. Whether you're talking about actual customer service, if you're talking about sales chatbots, marketing chatbots, or then if you think about internal chatbots like HR, IT help desk, or any other internal support chatbots, you are anyway serving a customer. They are either external customers or then they are internal customers in your organization. And then another context is that we have basically recognized two major chatbot implementation approaches, which are externally driven and internally driven. By externally driven, we mean projects that are, let's say, more heavier. They can be very IT focused. They involve either internal IT organizations. In many cases, they also involve external consultancy. Whereas then internally driven projects are led by the content matter experts in the organization. Like if Ilkka mentions that the users of our product, for example, are the customer service representatives. We could see that these internally driven projects are a little bit faster and leaner, while the externally driven may be a little bit more heavy on the project management side, maybe a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And how about, there is definitely somebody in the audience wondering and thinking of like robotic process automations and things like that. What's our take on this?
Well, this is definitely something very interesting to us as well. In the context of this webinar, we are focusing on a standalone chatbot solution, and meaning not concentrating on third-party integrations. But of course, the return on investment in such a project, when you can automate processes with natural language, the calculations are very different. And we are definitely happy to discuss any needs that any of the members of the audience have around these topics.
Yes, great. Let's move on. So then we dive into the actual cost side of implementing chatbots. Ilkka, please.
Yeah, so when we are looking at the costs, we need to approach it or we can approach it from three different angles. What happens pre-implementation, what happens during the implementation, and an ongoing basis after that. And starting from pre-implementation, so basically that includes time spent on kind of identifying problems, either chatbots could help you with, or identifying a problem and considering chatbot as a solution for that problem. And that also includes things like speaking with vendors, researching case studies, finding success stories, benchmarking. And I would say it's also fair to say that probably this webinar belongs to that category for quite a few members in the audience.
Of course.
And also maybe worth highlighting that in some context, some project, we have seen that customers might want to run certain workshops at this stage or data analysis to find out how their data is or how they could utilize chatbots. But with our implementations, we rarely do those things.
Okay. Good to know. So, Miikka, could you elaborate a little bit the implementation and ongoing phases, please?
Sure. So you can see the kind of a connecting red line across the different phases is, of course, time and resources. So you can always, whatever project you are running, you need to consider the time investment and the resources investment. Here, what we mean by resources, we mean internal resources. Then, depending a little bit on the chatbot vendor, they can charge separately from a setup project, or then they can directly just go and charge the license fees. It depends a little bit on the service provider. And then if we look back on the external versus internal approach, if you are hiring an external integration house, consulting company, then of course you need to consider that the consulting fees during the implementation project can be a quite significant portion of the whole implementation project. And then of course, when the chatbot is going live, the costs don't stop there, but they will reduce dramatically, of course. Again, a little bit differences between the approaches, but again, you need to consider the time and resources you invest. It really depends on how much you want to use on the continuous development of the chatbot. You can spend close to no time, or then you can spend a lot of time. It really depends. And the license fees, of course, they keep running in the background. That's more or less a constant, easy to evaluate. And then again, if you are using an external consulting house to also maintain the chatbot or maybe kind of help you develop it further, then you need to consider those consulting costs there as well.
Mm.
And yeah, so the last one is really that if you want later on during the implementation add additional integrations to the mentioned RPA solutions or CRM solutions or whatnot, you need to consider those ones as well. They could be done in the implementation phase as well, but anyway, those are costs that you would need to consider.
Yeah. Thank you. A few points here. I just want to clarify for myself. Time and resources are mentioned in the implementation and ongoing phases. So this means quite a lot training. Am I right?
Yes. So quite a lot depends again on the vendor. So there are very lean approaches that the training is only a matter of a couple of hours, but then other vendors, the training could be kind of a program that lasts over several weeks, for example. But yes, it's included in the time and resources.
Yeah. To point out here that we actually have another webinar about chatbot projects, and we dive in there into the project. So, but let's not go into that at this point.
Yeah, one thing I could add regarding the time and resources as well is that, again, depending what kind of a system for chatbots you're implementing, it might have a great impact on who you need to involve in the project. So if it's IT heavy or a customer service oriented project, and that also might have quite an impact on the actual cost.
Understandably. Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. Then to the returns. And here, Ilkka, could you start?
Yeah, happy to. So looking at the returns from the chatbots, we made kind of a split between internal use cases, so help desk, HR, IT, and so on, and then external bots, which are more customer service oriented. And I'm going to say right away that this is a bit of forced distribution here. Usually those benefits do go outside the bubbles here on the screen.
Yeah.
But maybe to give some context for the listeners on how this kind of benefits might manifest themselves. So, for example, we know one of our customers have a sales team who have built themselves an internal chatbot. So basically, while they are on a call with the customer, they have this bot they can reach out to ask answers to questions they don't know how to answer or things they don't need to know how to do during the call.
Yeah.
So traditionally, they would have needed to put the customer on hold and do research or call someone. Now they can get the answer from the bot, which means that they can actually increase their output. And what we've heard is the best sales people on this team have been able to double the amount of calls they make per day using the chatbot.
When speaking of these two items there on the internal bot side, faster access to information and increased output. So basically, both of these returns come alive in this case you just told us.
Yes, exactly. Additionally, speaking of kind of information, thing we have found out is that companies want to collect information for ticketing, for example, in more structured way than just receiving freely written emails. And the chatbot has turned out to be quite a good method for that because it can ask certain things in certain order from the employee in most cases. And then it can structure the ticket for easier management by the, again, maybe IT or HR help desks.
So we have done something like that for ServiceNow.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
We are helping companies in ServiceNow to do exactly that.
Interesting. So yeah, we'll stay here for a while. Miikka, could you please continue on the external bot side?
Sure. So I will not go through all of these via examples, but basically increased customer satisfaction is definitely something that you can achieve by implementing a 24/7 customer support operation, whether it's supported by humans and chatbot working together or just by chatbots. One of our customers, HOAS, the Helsinki Student Housing Association, has been able to identify that their increase in customer satisfaction was partially the result of using a chatbot on their both Finnish and English websites. Then on creating new business, this is of course very important that we not only discuss about cost savings, but we actually discuss about increased revenue. So there are several cases that we have where customers have been able to create new business. You could have a 24/7 lead capturing operation, for example. You can have the chatbot answering customer service related questions automatically, and when it identifies that the customer is asking about a new purchase, it can be directed to the correct sales agent versus then a customer service agent. So that kind of speeds up the sales process, again linking back to the increased output that Ilkka mentioned earlier. Then of course agent retention is something that the turnaround of customer service agents in customer support is quite high, and one of our customers, If, mentioned one of their customer service representatives mentioned that before they felt that they were doing the work of a robot, but now they have Emma, the chatbot there, and now she's taking care of the robotic stuff, and they can concentrate on more meaningful interactions. And then on the middle, you have these shared benefits, and there are many more. These are just an example. Workforce optimization. What we mean by this is, for example, our Slush customer. Slush is a European tech conference held in Helsinki every winter. They were able to, by implementing a chatbot, put many of their former chat customer service agents on the floor of the event to help customers face to face. And then of course cost savings. It's good to mention there that you can, even though you can consider it as an expense when you implement the chatbot, but then when you consider the potential savings or opportunity costs by let's say not having a 24/7 support or hiring new people to the customer support, that's something that you can easily kind of find the benefits of implementing this kind of technology versus new headcount, for example.
Interesting.
And to continue on the cost saving side, we also know about cases where companies have been able to bring in-house an earlier outsourced operation. For example, they have had a chat partly outsourced to another company, and with support from the chatbot, they have been able to use internal resources to do the same job.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, we have two different cases like that.
Yeah. Thank you. I tried to keep up with the schedule here a little bit, so let's move on to the actual example of our return on investment calculation.
So we decided to give you a bit of a concrete math and an example. It's granted it's simplified use case, and we are, for example, not looking at benefits here so much. Lead collection might be one benefit that would fit this example, but to keep this simple, we ignore that part for now. So we would be looking at the company with a decent sized chat operation. So for example, this could be a SME in B2C business or a small enterprise in B2B business. And what we know from the company is that they have roughly 2,000 chat conversations per month. And in addition to those, because chat is not all the time available or it's busy, there's also kind of underserved customer base, about 1,000 interactions a day. Sorry, not a day, a month. And in addition to those numbers, we know some costs. So an average, I think here in the Nordics, for a chat conversation is somewhere between 3 to 350 per each. And for the math here, we're going to use €3. And then in terms of this underserved population, we can make a presumption that each one of them needs to be served, and they will contact the company in a different channel, whether that's email or call. And the cost for that interaction is €5 each. That brings the monthly total to about 11,000 in this example. Then we introduce a chatbot into the mix. And what we've seen happening at our customers is that they've been able to use chat, whether by humans or bot, to serve the whole audience. So the total amount of chat conversations in this example would be 3,000. And what we also know is that, or what we've seen happening is that the amount of chat conversations requiring human attention has been split to half. So in this case, ending up with 1,000 conversations to agents. And we also know that, then the chatbot would handle 2,000 conversations a month, which is actually something that's in line with our results. If we look at how large part of the chat conversations we can automate in customer service is usually plus minus 70%. So in this example, it's roughly 66%. And we also calculate cost for each chatbot interaction. In this example, it's €1. This is of course something that then depends on what kind of model you have from the vendor you're using for chatbot license, and if there is a scalable components and interaction. But for the example, we use €1, ending up with total cost of 5,000. So we would be looking at the potential cost savings of 6,000 a month.
Mikko.
Yeah, maybe one comment. So as Ilkka mentioned, this is kind of simplified, and this is not even close to the high end of potential savings or efficiency gains that you can get by this implementation. So let's say our best results for the automation, for example, in our case, are in the high 80s. And if you are in a very customer kind of centric service business or product business where you get thousands of interactions or thousands of incoming conversations per month, of course, the potential savings are then also much higher. But this is a good kind of example of the mid-size SME.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. I think this is really interesting in like, even though Ilkka, you already mentioned that this kind of leaves out all the lead generation potential, but this, like, to the both ends, it's simplified. I think this is a good moment to move on to the other potential calculations.
Yeah, so I can take these. So these are just a few examples of countless different ways of counting the ROI, but these are maybe ones that we found are most fitting in this context here. So of course, what we discussed before already is the generating of new business. The formulas here are quite simple. Maybe the last one needs a little bit of explanation, but creating new business is simply the number of new leads times the average deal value times the hit rate to close. That gives you the potential upside with these ones, these chatbots. Then improving productivity, also a very simple formula. So average output increase times the number of employees is again basically time saved, and then you can turn that into euros or dollars or other currencies. And then faster access to information is reduced time spent looking for different kinds of informations, again, times amount of employees. It's really close to improving productivity, but it's again a time-saving effort which can be turned into increased output, productivity, maybe more sales. So it's a kind of complicated network of different metrics you can follow. And then the last one is increasing revenue based on NPS. This is something that we found that the London School of Economics had published an article around this a little while ago, and it's a quite interesting formula where the change or the delta in NPS times 1% of revenue times divided by 7 is a potential increase in revenue. So let's say you have the NPS delta of 7, that would bring you a potential based on the London School of Economics study, a 1% revenue increase. So that is a quite significant impact on the results. And as said, there are many others.
That's interesting. Well. To a little bit sum up this is that is it so that to get a really an organization-wide ROI for for a chatbot or for like chatbots, you would need to combine these different calculations, of course.
Yes, so you can combine, and I think because there are countless different ways of calculating any type of return, you just need to pick the ones that are most suiting and fitting for your organization. And how I would maybe start, I would say the pain points, and then kind of try to find the KPIs that would ease those pain points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mika, you can continue from here.
Yeah, so this is just to give you a kind of an example of two different types of graphs, which are using, they are, let's say, not imaginary numbers, but they are example numbers of different chatbot project cases. Again, we go back to the externally driven approach where we may have a lot of consultancy and then internal later on. So if we start with the external, so you can see that the pre-implementation costs are basically accumulating over the first four months of the project. So when the project is a little bit more heavier, it's safe to assume that the kind of pre-study, pre-implementation work is also a little bit heavier. Then at month 4 in this example, you have the kickoff, and in month 10 you have the go live. And during these 6 months implementation project, again, it's quite resource heavy. It could involve a lot of internal IT resources. It can involve a lot of external consultancy, which will then bring the costs for this implementation period quite high. And then, of course, after the go live, the returns start coming in and the costs will go down. Eventually, the costs will go down to the license fee and whatever ongoing service agreement you have with the, for example, the consultancy house. And the revenues then at some point they start accelerating fast, and then they maybe stagnate a little bit on a certain level.
And you reach the break-even point at some point.
At some point, yes. Not in this graph yet. Then the next picture is on the internally driven approach, which is a kind of a leaner approach. And again, I highlight that these are kind of maybe extreme, especially the externally driven approach could be a little bit extreme, but we have seen much longer deployment projects. But anyway, on the internally driven approach, you can see that the kickoff starts after 2 months of kind of pre-study phase. The project itself is only 2 months. You can reach go live in 4 months. And then, of course, then you start accumulating the returns. And you can also see that the costs are quite a bit lower at that point. In this example, you can reach break-even at month 10, which is actually the same time as go live in the externally driven approach.
Yeah.
So I guess the last point would be kind of give some concrete steps on how to move forward and how to get started, basically. So everything would start basically on you to define what are the problems or what is the strategy or what is the company strategy that you can support using chatbots. And I think that's something that you really need to clarify to be successful in calculating the return of investment and creating a successful project plan. And that's actually something that we do touch upon in the other webinar that we have on our website as on demand. So you can go and watch it at your convenience. And then basically you need to follow up on the kind of driver you selected and use that when you estimate the cost and how you implement the bot using which method presented today. And then you should also look what is the opportunity cost. So what it does cost for the company if you don't do anything, or is there an alternative solution than chatbots, and what would be the returns on that and the cost on that option. And then when everything checks out, you just should commit and get started with the project. And also one thing I would like to mention for the listeners is that no matter in which stage you are here, we are happy to help you in form of the success cases and calculations and everything to kind of get you going.
So basically you've been like from points 1 to 5, you've been helping our clients to build these kind of cases and work calculations, for example.
Exactly.
Okay. Good to know. Yes, then we have time for questions. Yes, I could. Yeah, we have three questions coming in. I will start with this one from here. I saw that revenue level was lower on the external versus internal graph. Why is that? Could you, Ilkka?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Can we get the slide up so everyone can see what was the question about? But basically, while we're getting the slide there, we were using for our examples the kind of expect automation level as a proxy for the return of the investment. So if it's internal use case, questions from employees, how many of those can be assessed and answered? And the same thing if it's external use case, how many of customer queries you can automate. And based on what we've seen happening in the market is that those projects that are led internally do reach a higher automation level. And we believe the reason for this is that the companies or the company employees know better their customers or their colleagues and what are their needs and ways of operating than an external provider can understand and learn. And that's why the ROI is higher.
Thank you, Ilkka. Second one is about what kind of companies are we working with mainly, and from what kind of cases are these examples like being taken from? Ilkka, please.
So we are working with many different kinds of companies, like Ilkka mentioned. So we have some large insurance companies, listed companies, and then we go all the way down to kind of small, mid-sized companies. If we think about these examples where they're coming from, so as I mentioned, they are not kind of based on any actual numbers, but they are based on our experience. So on the right-hand side, the internally driven approach is really actually that is based on our numbers, and of course while we don't see the actual financial kind of project cost analysis on our let's say competitors' projects. This is based on our information that you can get online. The highness of the graph or the cost graph is just to illustrate that on this external kind of consultancy heavy projects, the implementation costs are often higher than if you do it internally in a kind of maybe a faster deployment method.
Yeah. And we just to repeat here, even though it's been in discussion a few times, so that mainly we do this. We provide the tools for our clients to run this kind of internally, even though we are there to support.
Yes, and of course, as mentioned before, we also work with our kind of co-sell partners, where the implementation is then done together with the co-sell partner, and it doesn't mean that those projects are extensively more expensive. This is just to illustrate on this kind of very kind of traditional IT consultant heavy waterfall approach versus a lean approach. Faster results.
Thank you. Second one or third one is about you mentioned this workforce optimization, and how about getting rid of employees?
Yes.
What is our take on that?
Okay, so that's a very good question and very topical as well when talking about automation. By the workforce optimization and cost savings, we don't mean workforce reduction. We mean that the employees, let's say there's a current customer support organization of X amount of people, and then you introduce some sort of an automation solution. It could be chatbot, it could be whatever else. It just means that these persons who have maybe previously done very kind of repetitive tasks, they are now able to concentrate on something more interesting to the individuals, but also more productive for the organization.
Okay, thank you. Good. I think that's about it. Yes. And for the audience, if you come up with any questions later on, you can, for example, reply to the follow-up emails in which you are getting these presentation materials, and you will as well get the link to this webinar recording, so you can rewatch it or share it with your colleagues, for example. Yep. At this point, we want to thank you, Ilkka and Miikka, and Anna here, who is helping us with the management. And until next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining.
Bye. Have a nice day.